Welcome to the Hired Not Fired podcast, brought to you by The Real Me, the soft skills first talent solution that helps employers hire entry-level employees with better developed soft skills such as communication, problem solving, or emotional intelligence. Join us as we sit down with hiring managers, talent leaders, and others and get insider tips to help Gen Z stand out and get hired. Let's dive in. Our guest today is Chrissy Joseph. Chrissy has over 20 years experience in recruiting and HR. She's a graduate from Bentley University with a degree in marketing and computer science. In the last 15 years, Chrissy has led efforts in building recruiting functions in numerous startup tech companies in the Boston area. She's currently VP of People Strategy at BitSight Technologies. Welcome, Chrissy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb.
Can you tell us a little bit about BitSight for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with it?
Yes, of course. BitSight's a cyber risk management leader, helping companies manage exposure, performance, and risk for themselves and their third parties. We've been in business since 2011, about 750 employees. We have about 3,500 customers, and we're doing about 200 million in revenue.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So tell me, what's the number one thing that you look for when you're hiring an entry-level candidate? What influences you, whether you decide to invite them in for an interview, or for those that you're interviewing, that you actually go ahead and make the offer?
So there's a few things. I don't know if I have a number one. There's definitely multiple things that I look for. One of the things that I'm always looking for is making sure that these candidates are doing their homework, right? They're going into a conversation with myself or my recruiters, and they're prepared to talk about themselves. They're prepared to talk about, their degree and why they are interested in the degree that they went after or going after. We are curious about their time management, right? When it comes to preparing and scheduling the interview, how quick are they to respond to the emails? How quick are they to, have that attention to detail and make sure that their emails are strong, right? And well written. And also there's a level of engagement that I'm looking for from these students, right? You can get the vibe really quickly when someone's in front of you and they don't really feel like they want to be there. That very much comes off, even if it's over Zoom or in person. So I'm looking for the individual that really wants to be there and really has taken the time to understand what they want to do and how there might be a correlation between us as a business and them as an individual.
I love that answer. You mentioned so many of the soft skills that we focus on here at The Real Me, and it just emphasizes how critical they are to standing out. Let me ask you this. What do you think about all the headlines and the buzz around in the media about Gen Z not being prepared for the workforce, especially having underdeveloped soft skills such as communication, problem solving, emotional intelligence, and others?
Yeah, you do hear it. And, in some cases, I've definitely seen a lack of it. But I gotta say, I really, my heart goes out to a lot of these folks because COVID did not help. We came from a world where everyone was in the office 5 days a week. Every interview was done in person. There was never a question that you would do an interview remotely. And so when you would be doing the interview process as a candidate, you were constantly preparing yourself with your body language, what you were wearing, eye contact, a strong handshake. And then COVID comes and everyone goes remote. Now we're learning how to interview appropriately over Zoom, right? Make sure your hair and your top looks good, and then you don't really know what pajamas they might be wearing underneath, right? So
Yeah.
and then when things started opening up, now we're just expecting all these students to come in and know how to react or how to handle, the working life. So I think that, in some cases, it's really unfair. But I do think that there are a ton of ways and a ton of things that these candidates can do to grab those soft skills and really be able to have them be part of them. I do think that there's a couple pieces here that, these students should be leaning on when it comes to colleges. I mean, when I went to Bentley, one of the, when I was a senior and you start looking, doing the job search, the career services was a very big part of educating me on, here are the things that you might not be thinking about that they're going to be thinking about. How are you presenting yourself? How is your body language? I wasn't thinking about any of that. So there's just a lot of, areas and pieces that you can really, dust off or be more prepared. I think if they take the effort and time to do that, it really does make a difference, and us employers can see that.
I love how you brought up COVID because, the things that define this generation, Gen Z, really are COVID and social media. They're the first generation to grow up with social media. And that has impacted their communication skills. They gained some skills, on using their phone and finger typing, but they lost out on some verbal face-to-face skills as a result of that. And I remember when I was teaching myself in the classroom, we'd be on break and I'd come back after break. No one was talking to each other. They were all on their phones looking down. And it was like there was no socializing going on whatsoever. So it's these are two defining characteristics that are impacting their soft skills.
Mhm.
So I'd like to ask you, what is a pet peeve or a mistake that you often see with new grads or early career candidates?
Yes. Back to, preparation. I think that's the biggest pet peeve I would say that I have is when, as a company and as an employer, we're responsible for getting ready for the interview process just as much as the candidate is, right? Because as much as I'm interviewing them, they should be interviewing me being the representative of the business. And so when someone comes not prepared, maybe they don't have questions ready. They're coming across a bit too casual, or they really haven't, like I said earlier, did their homework to really understand, when candidates come in and they say, so what is it that you do again? I mean, it's a struggle at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that those are really the parts. I don't expect them to know everything. They shouldn't know everything, but they should understand, why they're here, what makes them, and really be prepared to talk about what makes them separate and more unique than the other candidates. And if they can talk about things that really drive some real impact in the business, like the soft skills, right? When you can tell me that you're a candidate that has done problem solving, or how to handle or how to adapt, you enjoy, you always had a coach, you've always been mentored, you've always been, been given feedback. Those pieces are all transferable. And so I think that the more we get of that, the better. The less we get, the more struggle it is.
Yeah, those are all really great points. And and another thing I notice is sometimes you'll see some low-level awareness of the importance of soft skills. So they'll just throw them on the resume, like just give a word salad of soft skills. Those are my skills. Let's pause there. So far, Chrissy's highlighted what really matters in early career hiring, from being prepared and professional to showing up with purpose. In part 2, we'll talk about how to prove your soft skills even without experience and how to network like a pro. Stay tuned. Part 2 drops in 2 days.